Commission meeting for August 27th. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brindley?
Here.
Commissioner Whitmer?
Present.
Chair Lively?
Here.
Commissioner Lane?
Here.
And Commissioner Tonelli is not here at the moment.
Okay. Next item on our agenda, number 2, is the approval of minutes for our July the 23rd meeting. Any comments on the minutes?
None. I make a motion to accept them.
Second. Moving second to approve the minutes as issued. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Number 3 is public comments. Anyone in the audience want to comment on anything that's not on our agenda tonight? There being none, we'll move forward to commissioners' reports. Anyone have anything? Been a quiet month.
Yep. And Lake Wobegon.
None. Staff reports.
Thank you. The City Council has not had a meeting since your last meeting, so I don't have any City Council updates. But as far as the Civic Center Master Plan process, I know we interviewed for the EIR consultant, and we were able to select a firm that we are going to recommend to the City Council, and that'll be on their September 16th, I think is the next meeting on that agenda. And then once that firm is on board, then we'll kick off the EIR process, and we expect that to take about, I think it's about 10 months to go through the EIR
10
process.
months?
And that was that firm we selected was actually very highly qualified. We really selected them based on qualifications, but they were also the lowest cost and the quickest turnaround time. And I'll double check that timeline, and I can email a summary. I think it was 10 months. And then I think you were interested in some updates on other larger projects. The Little League field is, the last review is about a 90% completion. We had another meeting with the City Council Ad Hoc Historic Review Committee, I guess is what they were called. They were interested in some little finish elements on the structure to make it fit in with the park a little bit better. So they've reduced the hardscape that was behind the area. They've also reduced the size of that storage area a little bit. And they've agreed to put the horizontal siding on the interior of it, have a little widow's walk on the roof line, and then, what's it called, cupola at the very top center. So there were some elements that were added. The City Council members wanted a few more elements, but unfortunately due to the cost, they weren't able to add them at this point. We at least have the design concept, and they're going to design it so that it could be added at a later date if funds become available. They want to start construction this year, but we don't have that submitted yet for permit review, so I don't have a timeline. And then Carton Field is still on hold. I really have no updates since the last update I gave you, which was that they were working on some design alternatives to try to mitigate the noise issues. There's still also conversations between the noise consultants to review the studies, but really nothing new to report, no neighborhood meetings at this point.
Thank you. Okay. Under new business, I would like to, at this point, move the public hearing item number 8 ahead of the new business, the housing element, because I think we'll be here a little while in the housing element, and I think we can handle the public hearing in a reasonable time. Would that be?
I second the motion.
Or first it, seconded, right?
Yeah.
However you wanted to do it.
We're in agreement, we'll move the public hearing lot line redesignation ahead, all right? That being the case, is a public hearing, lot line redesignation, 368 Selby Lane, and a lot line redesignation to designate the west property line as the front property line. Andrea?
Thank you. This first item before you is a request for lot line redesignation for 368 Selby Lane. The property is a flag lot accessed from a cul-de-sac. As you're aware, it's not a traditional flag lot. However, it does meet the municipal code definition for flag lots. There's an existing residence on site which is proposed to be demolished, and the applicant would like to construct a new residence, detached garage and guest house, utilizing the west property line as the front property line. No formal plans have been submitted. The footprint of the residence on your plans is conceptual at this time. If this lot line redesignation is approved, then the applicant would move forward with specific site design. The north property line is currently designated as the front property line. as previously recognized by the town on microfilm records. The applicant is requesting that the Planning Commission grant a lot line redesignation to designate the west property line as the front property line, which would result in a wider main buildable area when compared to the current configuration. The main reason for the requested change is the location of the accessory structures, with the north property line designated as the front. No detached accessory structures can be located on that side. And the applicant would like to locate 2 accessory buildings along the north side to minimize the visual impact from Selby Lane. The front and side setbacks, currently 60 feet for the front and rear, 50 for the sides, would remain the same. They would just be rotated along with the orientation of the front of the lot. The applicant notes that the redesignation would allow the house to be sited further away from the heritage tree, maximize the front elevation exposure to Selby Lane, minimize visual impacts of the accessory structures, and utilize a deeper portion of the yard. The proposed front yard is the shorter frontage, which is consistent with the municipal code definition of front lot line. The lot line redesignation would not impact the heritage trees within the buildable area and would not change the size of residence that could be constructed on site. As you noticed when you're out there, there's a pretty large heritage oak on site, a 60-inch, that will be protected regardless of the designation of the lot. The applicant is not proposing to remove the tree. The town arborist has also visited the site and has no concerns with the proposal. The lot line redesignation does not alter the allowed floor area for the lot, and again, would not allow a larger home to be constructed. We are supportive of this request, and we have not received any formal public comment to date. We did have 2 neighbors come in just to look at the plans and said that they might come, but didn't have comments one way or the other. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is also here. Thank you.
Any questions of Andre, anyone?
Did the town arborist see the beautiful white oak, I think it is, after that huge limb fell, or before?
I believe after, because it was like 2 days ago,
Okay.
2 or 3 days ago, yeah.
There's a large cavity in it,
Yeah,
Big limb.
big limb.
Any further questions? Thank you, Andre.
thank you.
No further questions, we'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant here? Comments?
Yes, good evening. My name is Jude Keurig. I'm with Pacific Peninsula Group. We represent the owners of the property who are the Burrs who live directly adjacent at 372 in the historic home. Just jumping right ahead to the tree, the tree limb has actually fell recently, long before we made this application. We're in the process of working with our arborist. Unfortunately, everybody's really busy this time of year, so nobody's been able to come out to the site, but we know that tree, given what we've seen, is in distress. Regardless, the intent is to protect the tree, and we'll adjust the footprint to respect the tree, but we're gonna wait to hear what the arborists say. So regardless, we think the application is fairly straightforward. If there was no home on this property, the designations of lot lines that we're proposing would be consistent per the town code. So we have many reasons to adjust it. We just like a deeper backyard. We think it has a better solar exposure. The home would have a better presence on Selby Lane. So we think it's a win-win for architecture, planning, and it's very, like I said, consistent with how the zoning code would be interpreted without a home there currently. So if you have any questions, I can answer them.
Any questions, anyone?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for moving this forward.
Anyone else in the audience to be heard on the public hearing? If not, we'll close the public hearing and comments from commissioners. Eric, I'll start with
It's
you.
pretty straightforward to me. It doesn't look like anything that is out of the ordinary. So I'm supportive of it.
William?
I visited the site, it all looks very straightforward, and I have no problem with the approving it.
Very bad.
I visited the site. I was concerned about the heritage tree limb on the ground. Glad you explained that, because I didn't really know what its history was, but other than that, I didn't have any problems.
I visited the site also and saw what's proposed, and I'm very much in agreement with that. So looks like all 4 of us are. May we have a motion, please?
Yes. I move that the planning commission approve the lot line redesignation to designate the west property line is the front property line at 368 Selby Lane, subject to the conditions of the draft lot line redesignation certificate based on the findings and for the reason incorporated in this staff report. Hallelujah.
Second.
Mary Beth. Moving second, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Nothing, you should make your comment if you desire to appeal our decision. You have 10 days from tonight to do so to this.
We have a very compelling meeting going on after this.
The roar of the audience is beyond belief. The next item on our agenda is the one, the housing element update presentation on where we're going with our housing element.
Thank you, and I'll just go ahead and introduce Josh from Baird and Driscoll. He'll be making a presentation. Since we don't have our high tech up yet, does anyone need a hard copy? Okay, great.
Great, thanks for taking the time to consider this issue. We'll be back pretty soon to present a draft of the housing element, but it's always good to make sure everyone knows what's going on ahead of time and also to get any feedback you have before we come in with the draft. So basically, I recognize a couple of...
Please identify yourself and tell me where you get the money from.
Oh, it's Joshua Abrams with Baird and Driscoll Community Planning.
Uh-huh.
And the city hired us with this, basically the city hired us to help update their housing element. And in particular, all the cities and the towns in the county are cooperating on their housing element. So we've been doing this project called 21 Elements where we're helping the cities coordinate. So it's kind of it's an offshoot of that. But the short answer is the city hired us.
Super. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you, William.
So, sorry for not covering that to start with. Basically, a housing element is a housing plan. It talks about what are the housing needs of the city, what should happen in the next approximately 8 years. There's a law in California that all cities have to have a housing element, and there's some guidance from the state about what needs to be in the housing element. And it's important to make sure we have all those things, but it's also equally important or more important to make sure the housing element responds to local conditions and local priorities. So there's a few things I'll mention where there's a real strong state law requirement, but mostly when we talk about policies and programs and directions, that it's really about local needs. And for the most part, the perception of the town, I think, is housing, things are working fairly well, so we're not proposing very many changes. Also, the previous housing element was adopted in 2009, so it's pretty recent. So a housing element, one of the steps is to evaluate the previous housing element, look at what was accomplished and what still needs to be done, discuss the housing needs, demographics of the community, and then a real important part of it is the policies and programs, the goals for the city. You have to make sure, one of the more contentious parts sometimes is you have to make sure there's enough sites for new development to happen for all income levels. You don't actually have to make sure that development happens. That's a private market decision, but there does have to be at least enough sites. And then you also have to look at potential constraints for new housing. The general take-home message is that it's a minor update. There's not going to be very many changes, but there's at least a few key directions we'd love to get feedback on. Of course, the demographics, it's good, there's more recent census data and other data, so we put that in there. And then the constraints, we discussed what the fees are, they've been adjusted for inflation. So all those things, when you see the housing element, pretty soon will be reflected in there. And then the policies and programs. A few trends, the population hasn't changed, historically doesn't change very much in Atherton. The projections from ABAG usually show an increase, but that's generally not accurate. One of the key trends we noticed is there's a lot of aging baby boomers. This is a real important demographic, there we go. And when we talk about policies and programs, we'll talk about how to make sure the needs of those baby boomers are met. Overall, the housing market is healthy. The city passed incentives for second units a number of years ago, and second units, accessory dwelling units, or granny suites. converted garages, they go all, by all types of names. But those incentives are working. People have been building 5 to 8 units a year, and that's something that will help demonstrate that there is capacity for new sites. The state gives us credit for those second units. I know that, of course, the population of Atherton is wealthy, but there are about 9% of the population makes under $25,000 a year, so there's definitely some poverty. It's hard based on the data to know for sure who that is. There could be seniors who are house rich but income poor. There could be domestic help that are living in a second unit that aren't making a lot of money. There could be a child living in the family second unit that also doesn't make a lot of money. But there is that. There's at least a percentage of the population that makes under $25,000. You can see on slide 12, we talked briefly about the housing need, regionally based on the economics, the job growth, and people having children mostly. There's a bit over almost 190,000 homes that'll be needed over the next 8 years. 16,500 are in San Mateo County. Atherton's number is 90. There's supposed to be space for 93 new units in the town, which is a slight increase. Last cycle it was 83, but that's over 8 years, so it's.
Hang on, Josh. You're saying that number 93 I read on my paper should be 90?
No, I'm sorry. If I said 90, I misspoke. It's 93, and that's over 8 years. So it's a slight increase from the last cycle, but it's not. When you think about it over 8 years, it's not a dramatic increase. And then you can see on the next slide the breakdown by income category. And this is where the second units are really useful because they usually tend to get rented, either be made available for free or rented at very low cost. So that helps meet that lower income need. The other way to meet the affordable housing need in the town is through housing at the college and the school. Menlo College has 79 units which are allowed, and Menlo School has 11 units. So taken all together, it will have no problems. We don't anticipate any problems with the state meeting the need.
There's 3 left when you add those two together.
Yeah, exactly. and the second unit's easily we can meet that need. So we held a public meeting, which I know some of you attended. The main focus, I thought, of the meeting was actually people who had lived here their lives who wanted to stay here. So that's something that we expected to be based on the demographics, and it was nice to see it play out. The proposal we're going to come forward with is to do a senior-friendly Atherton plan, so we can take time to really talk about how to meet the needs of aging baby boomers. And they change and they're complex. I mean, someone in their 60s or young 70s often doesn't need any assistance. Maybe they're beginning to get tired of a house, but they're perfectly capable. But as they get older, it gets harder, and in their 70s and 80s, their needs change. So it's important to look both to be prepared as the baby boomers age, and also to understand the needs today. And also even the needs parents, people in their 60s might have parents who are in their 80s who have particular housing needs. And I think in a lot of cities, the solution might be build housing near transit, build multifamily housing, and in Atherton it's not that simple. So that's why we think take our time over the next, at some point, I think we have a 2-year time frame for it, to do a plan, to gather community members, probably hold some meetings, and really talk about how Atherton in particular can meet its senior needs. Most of the other policies and programs were kind of cleanup things that the town said they would do that the town actually did, so we could remove them. If there's other directions, other things in the next 8 years that you'd like to see the planning department address, now would be the time to put it out there and to put it in the plan. But without that, the plan you see that'll come back to you, well, that'll be the main focus of it. So with that, just open it up for questions or comments.
This plan is normally set up for about 8 years, so we're like five and change into this one. Was there a specific thing that happened on this one that made it shorter than the 8?
There used to not be a penalty for being late with your housing element, so all the cities and towns were a little bit late, and now there's a penalty for being late. So everyone wants to be on time. So the difference is this time we're on time. We're a little early, but on time.
Okay, good. And the other thing too is a lot of the assumptions are based on the 9%, and I'm just wondering if there's any way to understand that 9% differently. Like, for example, there could be people with $3 million or $10 million in their 401k and $25,000 worth of income. I know, so what I wouldn't want to do is make the assumption around coming up with a plan for that 9% and not have them really be there.
Right.
All right, and so that's one thing to consider. The other thing is are we required to address the senior, or are we doing that for the citizens themselves?
No, that's just direction based on the town.
All right, good, that's all I wanted to make sure. Okay.
Josh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lee.
Is the 9% or any of those percent based on gross AGY or based on net after-tax income?
I would have to double check with the census. It's census data. It's probably before taxes.
AGY.
Mary Beth, any question?
Yeah, with regard to identifying housing sites, do we have to identify specific sites? Because Atherton is basically built out other than these sites at Menlo College and Menlo School.
Good question. The state law changed a couple of years ago, so now you do have to identify specific sites. Most of the sites, if someone wanted to build a new house, because it's built out, and there are some opportunities that people could subdivide properties that are bigger than 1 acre with 2 or 3 acres. So legally they would be allowed to. So most of the sites in the list of available sites are those subdividable lots. It's not to say that they're likely to subdivide, but it's just to say that if the owner of it wanted to, that's a theoretical possibility.
We actually do have quite a bit of vacant sites because the trend has been to acquire the property next door or turn it into a garden. So we're able to show on a map, yes, there's certainly land available where we could accommodate this development now.
I've got my
It's
12
not
front rows
available.
there.
It's there, it meets the legal requirement for a lot, and it could be developed if somebody so
It was bought
desires.
as a separate lot.
And that's all we're required to do from the town's perspective,
Yeah.
is to show it's available. We're not required to build it.
Some time ago, we saw the density bonus come through.
Yeah.
And that was one of the items on the checklist in order to give us a quote, fast track, get this thing approved. We were supposed to hurry up and get this done with that approval by the council. Are we on track to get the fast track approval going?
Was the density bonus, was that
It was
approved by
adopted.
council?
Yep.
Yeah, as far as I know, I should double check this and maybe Lisa can confirm. I think the town has done all the things required for the fast track approval.
Correct.
Yeah, and then the way the fast track approval works, rather than reviewing the document new and whole, they'll just look at things that changed from the last cycle. So it's actually, it makes it much more likely we'll get certified with less questions.
Our plan last time was certified.
Yes.
This is basically the same plan with the addition of the density bonus.
That's right, there's a
Required by the
number,
state.
yeah, that's right, with minor changes based on new population numbers, but it's very similar to the old plan, so I don't anticipate a problem getting. I think that in particular, the second units, the changes to second units a couple of years ago is gonna really help get it certified.
And Josh, maybe you can let us know, I believe a similar jurisdiction, maybe Hillsboro's already gone through the review process. And
That's right, so Hillsborough went through it and we got a letter from, and also used the same streamlined review process, and got a clean certification letter that said, we'll certify it if you adopt it. So their planning commission and council will hear it and then adopt it soon.
Any further questions?
It's a really good sign.
Pardon me?
It's a really good sign.
I hope,
Yeah, fingers crossed.
because this will give us 8 years
Right,
That's right.
instead of 5,
Right.
as it has been.
yeah.
Very good,
And
thank
the
you.
last cycle was shorter, I think, because ABAG had difficulties preparing the numbers and the calculations. It wasn't, the town was delayed. in it.
Well, we were a little late the last time in getting the final certification in for
Yeah, but the numbers came down late.
The numbers came,
Some-
that's right, they came down late also, so there was that it would have been really hard for any town to be, or city to be on time because the numbers came down late.
Any further questions? No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, I'll see you all again in a couple of weeks.
I guess we'll see you again on the 16th.
That's right.
Yeah, so we're hoping that you can go ahead and also just take action to formally schedule that special hearing on,
I make a
September
motion, we have a
6th.
special hearing on
Yeah.
September 16th.
Yeah, and I had a conflict that night that came up late, but I'll try to get out of it, but I'll keep you updated.
okay.
It's a work thing, it sort of added,
Is there a second?
after I said that was.
I don't know
I
that we
have
have
another question.
another date that was available.
Wait.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, good, then.
Lisa, did I hear you say that the council meeting was on the 16th?
17th, I'm sorry. I might have said that,
You did.
but it would be the next night, because this would be
Okay.
a Tuesday, but I might
Okay.
have misspoke, yeah.
Okay, well, I wondered how we were all gonna be in
I
here
wasn't gonna
together.
plan on doing a meeting.
It's really.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to hold a special meeting on September the 16th for the housing element. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. So
And
be it.
we will work to get that out to you early, so you have some time to review it. I think our target is early September, so.
Yeah, we're really
Next
very
week.
close.
Yeah, we're really close.
Yeah.
Neil gave some comments, yeah. So you should have a little extra time
I
to
hope
review
it
it.
isn't a,
It's not too thick, right?
Not
It's
charging by
small,
the
but
pound.
we try to keep it as small as we can. We put a bunch of the demographics in the appendix to slim it down, but there's still a lot of state requirements that.
There's, yeah,
push
there's
it up.
certain items we have to just talk
Boilerplate.
about from the state. So that's why we like to hire a firm that's got, you know, the experience, the similar language from other jurisdictions, since he's working in so many. It just seemed like a much more efficient effort.
Can you produce an electronic version? I'm out of town until Sunday night.
Oh, sure, you'd like it emailed?
Yeah.
I like one of those too.
I want a hard copy.
We'll email it to everybody,
Good.
and
No, you
we'll
don't.
leave you a hard copy
Okay.
and delete it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've completed our agenda and the audience is roaring with approval. So if there's no objection,
I make a motion to adjourn.
we'll all second that. Moving second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Holy cow.
I did want
This
to,
is a
I did want to
record.
clarify that in 2000 and 2011, I did not add to this demographic. Now, if they did today, it could be different.
Okay, that's a